use that instead when you're running the CF application. So with this, we move on to the next feature, that is a server manager. So just now you saw that I didn't have a server associated with my project. So I want to add a server, right? So how do I add my server and what are the options I get when I want to add my server? I can add a local server, I can add a remote server. I can have a URL prefix attached to it, and I can give a local resource and some URL prefix, some HTTP path that would be used. I can have debug mappings when I have a remote server and I want to debug some code on that. So I would be needing some debug mappings as well, right? So I can give that. I can have virtual host settings as well. And I can start stop obviously from the VS Code editor. So let's see how we can add a CF server. So here I go over here and I see the CF server panel. I click on the icon, I see CF server settings. So I have some general settings, I have local server, I have URL prefix and some other setup settings. So I'm just going to give some server name, say CF 2021, give some host name and some port. So now you see there is a username and password that would be asked if you want to use the RDS functionalities. You can just test the connection right here if your username password is correct. So if I have a remote server, I get some additional set of options that would be some other port name and server name, username, document root, etc. For now, I'll just go on add my local server. So I just give my server home, that is ColdFusion, CFusion path, and the document root, it gets automatically selected. You have to select a version, and the next one would be the URL prefix. So you can add a local path and you can add a URL prefix to it. I'll just skip that for now. I can have also virtual host settings. So if I want to add a separate virtual host, I can give those entries as well. I can add a virtual directory as well. So I say finish and my server has been added successfully. You can see in the right side, there is a left hand side, there is a CF server that is added. On clicking of it, I see some options that are, I can launch CF administrator from here. I can also import another local server also. I can delete, edit, restart, stop this particular server. You see a green dot there because the green dot says the server is running. So now we've added a server, we have added a project. But how do we link both of these, right? So we want to run these, right? So I can edit the project and I can say this is my server that is attached to it. So now I've attached a server to my project and I have a simple piece of code over here in the index.cfm. So how do I run this file if I want to run a particular file? There would be three different ways because this is available in the VS Code editor. You have an editor toolbar at the right where you see debug file and run file option. You also have the project manager panel itself from where you can right click on the file and amongst the options, you have a run as CF application option. You can also be in the editor itself and right click and see the context menu. And at the last, you would be seeing the run as ColdFusion application. So I've run this application and now it says, hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Adobe ColdFusion Developer Week 2022. This is correct. I guess we are beautiful, aren't we? And I guess we'll move on to the next part. So you would be thinking, I've added a server and I have some resources inside my server, but I have to keep going through it and I have to access it somewhere else. So how do I do that? So how do I access them inside the editor itself, right? So there comes a RDS support. So RDS is basically remote development services that will let you access the files, the data sources that are created in your CF server. So you have a file view and a data view inside the VS Code editor. What you have to do is first just enable the RDS when you are installing ColdFusion, and it will let you access files, data sources that are registered in the CF administrator. So here's how the file view looks. You have a file view and you'll have couple of options that would be inside your server's file view. You also get a data view. So if I've created a new data source called new ds, then it would be listing the tables in it, the views and other details in it, and also the other data sources. So let me just get some more greedy because I see a data source here and I feel like running a query. So what is a RDS query viewer? It would let you create and run queries on a particular selected data source. How do I do that? I just go to the data RDS data view. I right click on a data source that I have. I say RDS query viewer, and what it opens is this SQL editor where you can, at the left side, you can see I've typed a select star query, just a simple query that I'm running on a database, and it will give me the result as a query viewer in a tabular format. This is all inside the VS Code editor itself. You don't have to go anything anywhere else. So now we've seen, you must be wondering, oh, but you ran a very simple piece of code, and in real world, it would be a huge lines of code. It would be very messy, and there could be some issues with it. So how do I resolve such logical issues in it? So that's where debugger comes into play, right? You have a debugger to troubleshoot your application. You can go to a particular point in your code and see what exactly it's giving as output and fix the issues. So what are the debugger prerequisites? What do I need to get the debugger working? So you go to ColdFusion Administrator, you have to enable following things, right? First one is the RDS support, obviously, because we need to access some server resources. You need to enable request debugging output and allow line debugging output. These come as part of your debugger settings. So if you're on ColdFusion 2021, this would be part of your debugger package. So you'll first go to the package manager and install the debugger package, and then you'll get to see these options as well. You just have to enable them. So how do we fix the issues? That's the basic thing that we start with is breakpoints, right? We just put breakpoints. Some people put it everywhere in the code, and you just can just play around with it and set and remove the breakpoints also, right? So you can set a breakpoint at particular point in your code. You can remove it. You can run the code line by line also with a floating step menu. So the step menu will have your step into, step over, return, all of these options. So here's a snapshot of a piece of code that I have, and the red dot that you see here is a breakpoint, right? So I'm trying to see if my map function is giving a correct output. So I can just put a breakpoint over here, and I'm seeing if my logic is correct and I'm getting correct output or not. So say I have some variable defined in my code, and I want to see what's the value of that variable. So on the left side, you will see a variables panel where you can see values of your variables. Runtime, when you're executing your code, what is the value of particular variable in your application? What is the scope of it as well? You can watch expressions. Use watch expression. What is a watch expression? It's just a simple expression that you create, but you are trying to monitor some value, but you are going out of the scope, but you still want to use the value of it. So here's how that works. I've created an expression that says sum equal to sum plus I. So now sum and I are my variables, but I've created an expression here. So this would be giving me a value of that expression throughout my runtime of the application. So now I guess so far we have created a project, we have attached server to it, we have ran the simple project that we had, and we also saw how I can fix a logical issue in my code. So I fixed my logical issue, but I see there's a security flag because I'm getting some security issues with my code. So how do I remove that? So there comes a security analyzer into play. Obviously, security plays a very important role in your application, and ColdFusion has always been taking care of your security all throughout the lifetime of your application. So, as a developer, why do I need security analyzer inside the VS Code editor? It will let you see the vulnerable code that you have in the editor. It will show you what is the type of attack. Is it an error? Is it a warning? It will show you the severity level. So do I need to give this an attention, or do can I just ignore this particular issue? Although you should not ignore any issue. and also a suggestion to avoid vulnerability. So that's a pretty integrated one, right? I get a suggestion to avoid my vulnerability as well. So here's how this looks. So if you see if you run a security analyzer on a particular project, I have a file which was purposely created to have some security issues. So here it will show the path where the security issue is happening, like exact line number in that particular file, what is the attack name, what is the warning, like is it a warning, is it an error, and also in the right, if you click on a particular issue, it can give you a suggestion as well, like what's the correct flow you are needed. So you can just use that particular suggestion and fix the error, mark it as fixed, and and clear the marker. Next time you run it, it won't be visible in your analysis. So at the right side, here at the top, you see this export button, right? So this export button lets you export your security analyzer results. So if you have developed an application, but somebody wants to see what is the security status of it, so you can just export this result into a file and see a graphical representation of the vulnerabilities. So here's from my purposely created app, I have these many vulnerabilities that is graphically represented. You would be solving them, and probably you won't be having any security issues in your app. So for now, I have fixed my logical issues. I have also fixed my security issues. But somehow my application is running really slow. I am unable to figure it out. So what do I do here? So PMT comes into play here, and PMT plays a very important role in fixing your performance issues. What is PMT? Performance Monitoring Toolset. So this was released in 2018. It's a very powerful application monitoring suite that we have, and it can capture your matrices real time. It can continuously monitor your databases, server, applications that you have. It can also give you some alerts that would require attention and some critical processes. It can also help you identify the performance bottlenecks in your code. So what is one of the features from PMT? I definitely recommend you to try out PMT if you haven't there yet. And one of the feature of it would be a code profiler, right? So what is a code profiler? You can profile your server, you can profile your application, you can profile a particular URL as well from PMT. So once you have a PMT set up and running and attached to your CF server, you would be running a code profiler in it. You can import the particular date code profiler data from it. So when you run a code profiler in PMT, it will give you a JSON file output that you can download, and you can give it in as an input into the VS Code editor. So for a project here, on the right side, you get options of import code profiler data, or you can also run it directly from here as well if you have it set up and running. And when you have imported the data, you would be seeing at a very granular level what are the performance response times of each particular function, each particular file that you have at every particular line. So if I want to improve a performance of, say, a piece of code that I've written, a function that is running really slow, I can improve that at a very granular level. Okay, so what all we have done, we have ran an application, we have fixed logical issues with the debugger, we have fixed security issues with the security analyzer. I've also fixed performance issues with the PMT code profiler, right? Now I think my app is very perfect because it doesn't have any of these issues. So I just go over and ask my friend to see this new app, CF application that I've made, and then he comes up and he says, oh, but your application is very messy, I'm unable to understand it, right? So it's very difficult and complex for him, but for me it's very easy. So what do we have in this case? Developers all over the world use code refactoring. So refactoring is basically a practice that is followed when you have to maintain your code and have it very readable and very maintainable, easy to understand. So what are some refactoring techniques that people do, right? First up is rename a CFC or a CFM. Whatever my CFC or CFM is doing, I'll probably say, if my CFC is saying, say hello, I'll be saying, okay, hello.cfc, right? So something, a similar renaming techniques that should be there. You can also reference search for a particular file. So I can see where all this file is being used, where all I need to give attention for the particular file. I can rename a function or a variable. I can see if my function name is correct, if I'm say using a proper naming convention for my variable also. And I can get a refactoring preview. We'll see what this preview looks like. And I can also refactor the occurrences that I want, right? So see, let's see the first one. How do I rename CFC or a CFM? So if you've added some CFC or a CFM to your file, right, you can just right click on it. You can see a rename option that comes up with a particular file, and I say rename, and on the input box I give another name to it. So I see a refactor preview at the bottom panel. So it shows me where all this file is going to be renamed, right? So I can have checkboxes. I can say whichever places I want to get it renamed, and I can apply the changes, and it would be done automatically. Reference search. So what is a reference search? It would be searching all the occurrences of your particular refactored file, or any particular file for that matter. So you can just right click on a file and find file references. It will show you all the occurrences in the references panel of the VS Code. You can refactor a particular function or a variable as well, right? So say I have a function and I want to rename it. So I just go to the function itself, put the cursor there. I just right click on it. I get a rename symbol option. With the rename, I get an input box, and I say a new name that I want to give it to this, right? So say get local time new. So again, with this, you get a refactoring preview and see where all this is happening, and you can just change it at those places as well. So I guess for now we have seen all the set of features that our project manager server. We've ran the application. We have seen the RDS and query view, how you can run the query and see the results of a query. We have also seen debugger features. We have seen security code analyzer, PMT code profiler, and a good practice that is code refactoring. So with this, I will be handing over to my friend that is Nikhil. He will be taking you to some cool editor features. Thank you for being patient, and over to you, Nikhil.
Yeah, thanks, Ketki. That was a good and informative presentation, and I hope I'm very clear with my audio. And till share my screen, I hope this is visible to everyone. So it has been a very good half hour listening to Ketki, and at the same time, I was feeling like I was standing on the booth and waiting for my turn. So yeah, I feel like are you able to see my screen firstly? I hope so. Yeah, okay, that's good. So I felt like I was, I mean, the audience here is very interactive, even more than actual CF Summit. So yeah, that is very good to see, and good to see the suggestions, and also you remember the CF Builder that we have had. So yeah, I will firstly go tell you something about me, and then I will go through the presentation. So, I am Nikhil. A very warm good morning to everyone, lovely people, and I have been working for 6.5 years in the same team, ColdFusion, and over the years I have made some contributions relate to various features like ColdFusion Builder, API Manager. Then in 2018 release, I worked in performance monitoring toolset, and in the last release, that is 2021, I worked on integration of cloud services like AWS, SQS, SNS, and Azure Service Bus. And also I worked on some of the language features like parallel programming and ifs, if you have got a chance to try them. And then I Post that release, post the last release, I have been working to build VS Code extension and bring it to you guys. And apart from work, I love reading. I read mostly technical stuff, and I also follow sports and politics. So that's about me. And my colleague Ketki has already taken you through some of the features that this extension has to offer, and also she has told you something about why you need it and how exactly it works. So now I'll be taking you through some of the features that will help you while you make changes to your existing code or write some new code. So let's get started. So first one in the list is about code assist. So the feature is about getting you the code completion proposals at the right place based on what you have typed so far and based on the current context of your location. So the shortcut is control plus space, and we support this feature for all four languages: CFML, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So the support for other three languages because many a times the code in these languages also gets embedded in the same document. So that's why we supported this many some of the features in the same of all four languages. So here in the screenshot, you can see we have typed angular bracket and then C and F characters, and it is able to fetch the list of all the tags available. And for each of the tag, it is giving me a crisp description about the tag. And if I select any of the tag, it will insert the remaining text of the tag along with some of the required attributes as well. So that's how it works. And specifically for ColdFusion language, we try to dive deeper, get more information so that it covers more and more scenarios for you and it is more helpful. So let's see those scenarios one by one. We have already seen that how it brings tags and attributes at the right place, and it auto inserts those required attributes as well automatically. Then, if you're calling any built-in methods or your own methods that you have already defined, so those will also be present in the suggestions for you. Similarly, if you are using some ColdFusion types like array or struct or dates or queries, so if you have those variables as typed variables and you are trying to invoke some method on that particular variable, so those variables, so those functions like array sum or struct filters, those kind of functions will be available to you uh, on the on the typed variables. And similarly, if you are trying to include a CFC or extend a CFC, so the methods from those CFCs also will come in the suggestions. And similarly, if you are trying to use through CF include a CFM, and so the functions, variables, tags, and queries. So all those are brought and they are available to you in the suggestions. And yeah, lastly, yeah, CF query also. So if you are writing a query in the CF query tag or query execute method, and probably you would have added some data sources in your CF admin. And now, if the server is attached with the project that the document is in, so if the server is attached to the project and the document is in the project, so the document will bring all those data sources and table names from CF server while you are writing the queries. So the idea overall here is that to bring more and more information so that it becomes easier for you to write code. So that information in some cases might be coming from the same file. In other cases, it might be coming from an external file like CFC or a CFM, and in others, it might be coming even from a CF server, as in case of CF query. So it will bring you data sources and table names as well. So these are the scenarios covered by this feature. So moving on to the next one, which is code navigation. So this one is about being able to move seamlessly across your code. So this is done through commands. And in VS Code, basically, you if you want to see what all commands are available, they can be seen through command palette. So you just press command plus shift plus P on Mac, or control plus shift plus P on Windows, and you get to see the list of commands. So here, when you have the extension installed, you will see that, yeah, go to next member, next attribute. So these are the code navigation commands that we have introduced with this extension. So we'll see them one by one. So firstly, yeah, this is be able to go to next member or next or previous member functions. So if you are having n number of CF functions or n number of CF property objects inside a CFC or a CFM, you can use this command to go to the next member function or next property. So let's say if you are even in the middle of a function, or in the end, or wherever you are inside a function, it will move to the next member which if you press Ctrl Shift E on Windows. Similarly, for previous member also one can make it work. So the next one in the list is being able to move to next or previous attribute. So if you are using tag syntax and you are at a currently you are at let's say you are at a name attribute of a CF function, and you want to move to next attribute. So you just press Control plus big bracket open and close, and then you will be moving to the next attribute. And similarly for previous attribute it works. So basically when you are trying to quickly edit those attributes, and so in those scenarios it can help you. So this works for named parameters as well, by the way. Okay, and yeah, next, moving on. Uh, this is a very important command which basically allows you to move to the end of the tag or a block. So sometimes the tag body or a code block or even an if block can span hundreds of lines, and it becomes slightly challenging to scroll and get to the end of the block. You have to find where my block is ending. So in those scenarios, you just press Control Alt V on Windows and you get to the end of the block directly. Okay. Similarly, there is another command for selecting a block of tag or a code block. So here I'm having two functions, test and test2, inside a CF script block. Okay, and I was in test2 function. I invoked this command and it selected the entire block of code for test2 function for me. Now, if I invoke the command again second time, what it does is it selects the entire CF script block for me. So this one comes in handy when you are trying to do a delete or do a copy operation very quickly on your code block. So if you are having, it will work even if you are having an if block or a try block. So all those scenarios will be covered, and it will basically help you make a quick copy or a delete operation for you. So that's the end of the section, and moving on to the next one, which is also very much related to this code navigation only, which is called as go to definition. So this one basically allows you to jump to your CFC definition or function definition right from your invocation point. So if you are having invocation at one place and definition at other, you can just go to the definition by control plus click on Windows, and on Mac you need to do command plus click. And for user defined functions, whether they are in local file or in external files, external CFCs, that would work. So we'll quickly see through a video how it actually works for in both the cases. So here I'm using a script syntax, and in code1 CFC I'm having two methods, test and test2. And test is defined in line number 4, and it is being used in line number 10. So if I want to go to definition, I will just use this command, and then I can go. Yeah, you can see now if I uh, invoke the test2 function and provide the two integer parameters, and then I try to move to the definition. As you can see, I can move to line number 7 very quickly. So this is how it works for functions that are there in the file itself. Now we will see through other example how it works for tag syntaxes, and the function also will be defined in some other file. So here in this example, you can see I am trying to invoke a method get last trade price on a different CFC, that is code 1. Okay, and if I want to go to the code 1 CFC, I will just use the command and then I will go. So here you can see it takes me to the start of the CFC. Okay, and the CFC is being defined in this particular directory structure, and it has the function also that we are trying to invoke. Okay, and now if I want to move to, I will move to the 1.cfm again, and I don't want to move to start, but I want to move towards the line where exactly the method is defined. So I will just invoke the command again using control plus click, and I can move to line number 3 directly also. So this is how it works for CFCs, for tag syntaxes, for script syntaxes, for user defined functions. Those are defined in local file, and for those defined in other files also. So this is how it works, and we'll now move to the next feature, which is called as code formatting. This is quite self-explanatory actually. So basically, it will convert your messy and inconsistent CFML into properly indented and formatted code, which is clean enough and readable. And you can basically run this formatting on entire document, or you can also make it run on selected text only, so that basically if your rest of the code you don't want to touch, so you it will run on selected code only. And yeah, we'll provide this feature on the all four CFML, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. So we'll quickly see through examples how it works for CFML and JavaScript. So yeah, in this example, you see there are lots of tabs and spaces in our code base. And now if I run my formatting, it will turn this code something like this. So here you can see this is more readable, and with proper indentation, it anyone can work in a better way from with this. So now that we have seen for CFML, we'll see for JavaScript how it works. So in this particular screenshot, you can see this is a minified JavaScript with very few tabs and spaces. So it is difficult to read, right? And if I run formatting here, it will turn into a prettified version of the same JavaScript, right? And it is more readable, it is more easier to work with this particular code. Similarly, you will see it will working with HTML and CSS as well. So this one I think sums up the feature. Now we'll move on to the next one. Yeah, diagnostics. This is a very important feature actually. So diagnostics basically helps you flag the errors and warnings in your code. So what it does is basically it forms a kind of a tree like a structure from your code, whatever code you have written, and with that tree structure, it tries to compare with the language, with the grammar of the language. Okay, and identify whether the code you have written that is correct grammatically or not. Okay, and we have basically synced the parser with the latest version, that is CF 2021. And to enable this feature, you need to go to preferences and check this box, enable syntax checking under syntax checking preferences. So we'll see these preferences also in the later slides. But yeah, once you enable this feature, all the problems in your project will be listed, grouped by the file names, and each of the problems will be having a short message about the problem along with the line number and column number where exactly the problem is. And if you click on any of the problem, it will take you directly to that particular line and column number. And this is how it looks at that particular line and column number. So if there are errors, it will show up. It will show basically a small underline at that particular line and column. So here in this example, you can see at line number 12, it was expecting a number or a variable after equality operator, right? But it encountered a comma. So it is clearly telling that invalid token comma at line 12, column 12. Similarly, for warnings also, basically you are trying to invoke a method on a CFC, but CFC itself does not exist in the file system. So it is trying to flag that warning that, yeah, the code might break, though it will not produce any syntax error. So it helps you to identify the errors and warnings early on without you actually running the code and finding the CF server throwing that same exception. So now we'll move on to the next feature, which is quick fix. So you've already seen that the extension has the ability to flag the mistakes and warnings in your code. So this quick fix feature goes one step beyond, and it provides you suggestions related to the fixes available. For example, in the same example you see, you are trying to invoke a component, or you are trying to create a new object using new operator in the component, and the component itself is not there in the file system. So uh, if you click on that particular error, you will see a lightning bulb kind of a icon in the VS Code screen. And if you click on that lightning bulb icon, you will be seeing the various suggestions available. So if I click on the student related error in the first line, I'll get a suggestion like this. So it is offering me a suggestion that you can create a new ColdFusion component which is named as a student. Now, in normal scenarios, if I were to create a component, what I would do is I will just go to the file system, create a new file, then save it, and then probably insert some code into it. But here, I can do all those steps by accepting this suggestion by clicking on it. So if I click on the create new ColdFusion component, it will create a new component for me under this file structure. You can see code snippets, app1, NASDAQ, student.cfc. And it will also insert a dummy code inside your CFC. So so that's how it works. And if I go back to the same CFM, now you will see that particular warning is gone, but it is showing me a new warning saying that the method is not there. So it has gone and scanned the directory structure, and it has found that student CFC is now there, and uh, but the method is not there in the CFC or any of its parents also. So then it shows that your method is not there, and if I click on the error, it will show me the suggestion saying that you can create a new function as well. If I accept the suggestion again, it will insert the CF function code in the same CFC object. So here you can see it can generate ColdFusion components for you, as well as it can generate CF function code for you. So that is how it works, and we'll see more scenarios where exactly this code generation can help you. So uh, as we have already seen, like for CF invoke, but whether you are trying to create a CFC using create object method or a new operator, or using CF object tag, in all these scenarios it can generate a CFC for you. And even if you are trying to include a CFM using CF include tag, or you are trying to extend a CFC but or implement a CFC, but the CFC is not there in the file system, or okay, so in those kind of scenarios it can generate a CFM or a CFC for you. And for functions, we have already seen for local functions or functions defined in some other file, it can generate those functions for you. So that brings me to the end of the feature, and we'll quickly move on to the next one, which is hover. I think this one is very common feature, and everyone would have used it, right? So it basically is to get small descriptions about the elements in your code. So we have made it available for all four languages: CML, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. And if you basically go and hover your mouse over any code snippet that is in these four languages, you will get a small description of that particular element along with links to some documentation online, if there are any links available. So we'll quickly see how it works for CFML. So yeah, yeah, as you can see, it can identify various tags. Here, if we hover over CF function, we can clearly tell me what CF function does, along with a small link for online documentation as well. Then yeah, for attributes also, I hover over name attribute and it can tell me that yeah, this name is a component name, sorry, a function name, and it is basically a component method that you are trying to use. So and yeah, link is also available. And yeah, for built-in functions also, if you're trying to use functions like array append or array each, so yeah, it can clearly tell me that what the function is about and what all parameters it accepts. And it also covers the named parameter syntax. Basically it can tell you that what the parameter is about. So it is clearly saying me in this example that array to which the element is appended for array append. So here we can see it works for these kind of scenarios for CFML. Now HTML also, it will identify various tags, attributes, and it will show you the description while you are typing your code. And for JavaScript, it will tell you the types of the fields, types of the variables. For example, if I hover over config, uh, if I hover over config variable, I can see that there are fields like core data, instrumentation key, and web analytics configuration along with each of their types. So and for functions, it will tell me about the signature of the method. So I hover over date constructor and tells me that yeah, this is a constructor and there are four overloads available for this particular constructor. I hope this feature is clear, and will march on towards the CSS. Yeah, I think CSS also is there, so it can identify your attributes like color, font style, font size, etc., and it will show you the small description along with the documentation links. So yeah, I hope this feature is clear. Now we'll march on towards the next feature, that is outline. The problem this feature solves is when you are having large code base and a single file is having lot of code, and you want to identify your piece of code that you want to edit or or probably see only. So it becomes sometimes difficult to find. So in those cases, outline comes to rescue by displaying a hierarchy of elements and forming a tree-like structure, so that it becomes easier for us to find our piece of code which we are currently interested in. So we support these features of this feature for all four languages, and it looks something like this. So the outline panel is basically the left bottom panel. If you go in the VS Code screen, and you will see yeah, here you can see in the screenshot also, we are able to get the CF invoke tag, and in functions also, within function, if you are using something, that will also come, and you can even see the HTML elements also coming along. So this will help you, and yeah, and this is customizable as well, so you can sort or filter based on your preferences. And if you check this follow cursor option here, it will basically follow wherever your cursor currently is inside the text editor. So it will expand that particular subtree only, so it will be easier to find neighboring elements. So that is the utility of outline. We'll move to the last feature of the day, that is profile preferences. So we have seen lot of features like code assist, formatter, outline, syntax checking. And preferences are basically made to so that your features work as per your choices. And just for the sake of convenience of transport portability, and for the convenience of management of these preferences, we have organized these preferences into profiles, so which is a newer term. If someone has used CF Builder, he would be more comfortable with this. But yeah, profiles is to make you organize your preferences in a good way and in an easier fashion. And you can also transport so that uh, even if your workspace changes or your machine changes, your environment remains the same. So we'll see that how and where we can form these preferences and what is the utility through a short video. So here we have a workspace open, and in the bottom right, it is difficult to see, but yeah, you can see the profile preferences link is there, right? Uh, Here in this, yeah, in this bottom right, and if you click over there, it will open a tab for you, and it will show you the list of profiles in a drop down and the currently active profile. And if I want to create a new profile, the button is there. So now if I will create a new profile and just enter the name and press OK. Now I'll need to make some changes, otherwise the defaults are automatically populated for any new profile. So I will go through the preferences, what all preferences are there. I think I will go through the preferences, what all preferences are there one by one. So if you see the editor preferences, basically you can provide in input that if a new file is created, what would be its by default, what name it would be taking, and what content it would be having. Similarly for CFC also you can specify. And going to the next set of preferences, which is code assist. So here you can select the where from where which version of CF ColdFusion server do the suggestions coming to you belong to. So do suggestions come from 2018 version or 2020, because they can vary, right? And filter, there is an option for filter proposals as well, so if you want to filter or not. And similarly there are for auto preference insertion also there are preferences. So moving on to the next one, formatter preferences. So basically it has got multiple subsections related to formatting, and each of these sections also has got a preview section, as you can see here. So this preview section is basically allowing you to see the effects of the changes that you are making in a live manner. So if you make a change in the preferences, then you see the effect right here for in terms of formatting, how will it look like. Okay, and for tag, so here you can see you can change that whether you want your tags and attributes to be converted into lowercase or uppercase, or you don't want any change. Okay, then there is an indentation for preferences as well, wherein you can specify that whether you want spaces or tabs to be used in case for formatting for indentation. Then there are white space settings that so you specify, there you specify that where exactly you want white spaces to be inserted. If you want insertion of spaces around operators or function parameters or not. Then there are wrapping preferences, wherein you basically specify that how the lines will be wrapped, and how many columns are allowed for one line, and what all elements can be wrapped, what all cannot be wrapped. Similarly, there are braces preferences as well. Then moving on to the outline preferences, it allows you to show all tags or show selected tags only. So if you basically select all tags, sometimes the outline view can get too cluttered because it is showing all of tags, and it becomes difficult to find among those. Uh, so you can just choose selected tags, and you can choose what else selected tags will be appearing in the outline and what not. And yeah, So here, and apart from that, yeah, syntax checking preferences are there. There you can basically enable or disable the features like syntax checking and quick fix. So once you make the necessary changes, you will apply those changes through apply button, and from next time this profile is active, the features will work as per your choices. So this is, and overall this apply button also saves you the file, saves a file, saves a XML file in your directory structure, which you can take and transport it to any other machine as well. So your workspace remains unchanged even if you change machines. So this is the purpose of this particular feature. And thank you for being such a lovely audience, and such an attentive audience as well. I am now open to questions. I think I am seeing the release date related questions, so I am not the right person to answer that. We are having Mark here, or even our product manager Aditya can take this.
Yeah, I guess the answer is soon. Trademark. It's coming soon. It is really right around the corner. For everyone asking when they can have it officially downloaded from the actual extension store in VS Code. It is right around the corner. We're squashing a few bugs, but currently we have over 100 people in the private beta that are testing it. We're getting really good feedback. So hold on tight. Be patient with us, please. It's coming soon. You're going to love it.
Yeah, yeah, and there is a question related to cost as well, Mark.
It is 100% free, but not open source. So we will not be charging for it. However, the source will not be open for the language server because it does contain Adobe technology.
A lot of people would be excited with this free announcement.
For sure.
Yeah, and as promised by Ketki, we have a question towards the end as well. That would be opening up door for a voucher, $100 voucher for audience. So, shall I ask the question, or anyone has some question related to any feature?
Well, there's definitely a lot of questions out there. You should probably have someone answer a question based on your talk. So maybe something a little bit complicated that you talked about, and have them tell you about it.
I have a question. I will just present that. So yeah, are you able to see the question? The question is about the protocol that is used for communication between ColdFusion server and VS Code extension. So the four options are language server protocol, A, B, that is debugger adapter protocol, C, that is RDS protocol, and D, none of the above. So come on, guys, take your guesses. Yeah,
looks like Tom Harrington already answered A.
So who is the first one to answer?
Looks to me like it was Tom Harrington. If A is correct, right? Or is that not correct?
Well, no. A is not correct here. Someone is saying, so there is a tie. I think Greg is saying that RDS is the first, right? And
okay, Greg Stevens.
Just a little bit late here. And Greg has backed this, though he has not selected C option. He's directly said that, yeah, RDS.
I think that counts.
Yeah, that counts, right? In some cases, it might not count actually. but yeah, we are liberal here.
Right on. So if Apurva could get the information for Greg, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, Greg, can you type your email ID here?
No, don't share your email with the entire crowd.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Everybody, email Greg quick. There we go.
So yeah, Greg is the winner, I think, and I would request Kishore to send him the $100 voucher.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you both for this amazing, incredible talk. I know that you had tons more because I sat through 3 hours of this, and I think even then we didn't cover every single thing that this extension does because it's really amazing. It does a lot. I want to thank you both for taking the time to come out and chatting with us and showing us this amazing thing that's coming, which is free, by the way. So before everyone heads off to get their coffee, please fill out this poll. Let us know how Ketki and Nikhil did. The speakers find this information really useful and use it to kind of help hone their craft in the future for future talks. So coming up next, we've got a talk by, I don't know, some guy named Mark Takata, Delicious Vanilla, Cloudy Crud. Unfortunately, the NoSQL part has been removed, and I can explain when I do my talk. So stay tuned for that coming up at the top of the next hour.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.